So now we are going to cover the square cake with fondant. This applies to ganache or buttercream. So I am going to panel them because it is a tall cake and draping it in the traditional way. We are just going to loose out and then there are going to be tears. So to be safer, I am going to panel all the 4 sides separately and allow it to dry and then cut them out. So we are just going to have crisp edges. Okay. So for the first step, we need the cake and I am going to measure the sides. Okay, so it is about, I am just going to have a little extra. Okay, so it is about 13.5. Okay, and then this is about 15.5. So that is the size it is going to be on all 4. So I am going to need a rectangular sheet that is 13.5 by 15.5, and then the top, that is about 13 because it is the size of the board that we used. So that will be 13 and a 13. So 13 by 13 square for the top and 13.5 to 15.5 on the sides, and we need 4 of that. Okay. So I am going to use an avocado green fondant. So I am going to roll out maybe half at a time. We just need to be sure of the thickness. So when you take out the fondant, just knead it. So if you are just picking out a fondant from the box, like if it is a fresh fondant, or like you just taken out a portion already, like you opened the seal and then you stored it and then you are going to pick it up again, any sort will need proper kneading. Now without kneading, if you are just going to pick it up and then start rolling, then you might have difficulty. First you need to completely soften up. Okay, and then you just need to dust your counter with corn flour, and you need a really bigger rolling pin. So what I have is a acrylic rolling pin. You know, as you're rolling, you're not supposed to flip it. Okay, so this will be the right side all the time. So you just keep turning the fondant to make sure it is not sticking to your work surface. So keep turning it and roll it from all sides, and try not to make it like very thin. And you're going to check the thickness. The thickness here is like quite good, and that is the thickness on the inside as well. Anyway, I am not going to use the edges, so the thicker part will just be removed. And now I just want these panels to be cut out and then be resting for some time before I place it over the cake. Okay, so I am just going to use parchment paper. Just to be safer, dust corn flour. I am going to place this sheet over the parchment and run the rolling pin again for one more time. So we just have leveled top. Okay, and now I am just going to look if I have the measurement. So it's going to be 13.5, right? So I'm just going to cut through. From here I'm going to mark a 15.5, we make it 16. And from here I am going to mark a 13.5, and mark a 16, and now I just have to be sure that this marking is 13.5, because from here maybe you kept the scale not straight, so that possibility we just need to cross check, right? So from this point that joins with this dot that you made, you need to find the 13.5. So that will be the right point, not the first one that you did, because we may not have held the scale right. So I am going to remove the excess. So I will be rolling this back again. Now this let me just tap and then make it straight, because we're just going to allow this to dry. Okay, so I'm just going to place this one aside, and I'm going to make 3 more of that, and another panel which is 13 by 13 for the top, and then I will get back once I have all the panels ready. So I have all the panels here, you can see. So these are the rectangles, the 4 of them, and the square for the top. Like, you just need to make sure when you are just dabbing using the scale to put them into straight lines, just ensure if they are not shrinking in size because you're dabbing them from the outside. So once you've done, just make sure you're measuring it back. Okay, and now say suppose I had just dabbed here because I just wanted to bring it straight, and now I'm measuring, it should have been 13, but then if it is just reduced in size, I just use the rolling pin and gently take it back to the size it is supposed to be. Okay, so now measure, once you're done with cutting, just measure again. A little extra is always good, we can cut it out, but then if there is a shortage of the fondant, as you're just going to put the panels on the cake, then we might have gaps. Obviously if there are gaps, then we can fix it later, but we try and avoid the gaps so we don't have to patch them up later on. But we have extra, you can obviously go on and then cut. So each of these panels are in individual parchment paper. I'm going to set them aside to dry out completely in a flat surface, and then I'll get back to show you how we have to go attach it on the cake and then finish the square draping on a fondant. So now we are going to cover the square cake, the one that was covered with IMBC I have here, and all the panels are here drying up. So you can see it is quite flexible but not too stretchy. It is firmed up well, and that is what we want. Now this is the square panel that will go on top of the cake. I have that as well. So the 5 panels are ready. I'm just going to set them aside, and I'm going to have the cake here. Now the cake has been in the freezer for the last 2 hours. Until then it was in the refrigerator, so it's been like 8 hours after the process of frosting, and the first 6 hours in refrigerator, and right before draping you want the whole thing to be completely firm. Okay, and then when you take it out, like 5 minutes before you're just going to drape, you just take it out, and if it condenses, the water droplets are going to be there, and if it doesn't, then you have to just brush it up with a little bit of water all through, so the panels of the fondant sticks to it. Anyways, if it comes from the freezer, condensation will just help make the outer surface moist. Okay, so this is the top panel. I'm just going to place it over on the top. Okay, and then I'm just going to pick up the rest of the panels. I'm going to use fondant smoother. I'm just going to get the next panel. And then the third side. Just making the entire side stick well. Move on to the fourth. These excess should be cut, but I'm just going to place the panels first and then check for the excess. I'm just going to use two smoothers. Just press it well. So I'm just going to join where I find there are gaps. So I'm just going to press it over where I find gaps. So now I'm just going to cut out using a craft knife. Just pass through. I'm just going to cut through the top here. I'm just going to use 2 fondant smootheners to just press it against and then just push through. So I'm just using the smootheners to just press it from the side and then just push it through. So we're just trying to avoid all the gaps here. Mostly everything is stuck by pushing it against all the 4 sides. I'm just fixing and sealing up the corners. Okay, so if the condensation is happening, it is just going to stay for a while, but then it is just going to get back to its original state, which is just drying back. But then you need to just allow some time for the condensation to happen, and the outside of the fondant could get sticky because we are working on the IMBC cake, because IMBC in room temperature doesn't crust or dry unlike ganache. So working with IMBC and covering with fondant is a little tricky, but then technically when you understand why we need it to be firm for us to just wrap it up with fondant, and we will just be able to handle it. So it just needs to be covered up right after it's taken out of the freezer, but then when you keep it in the freezer, it's like 10 or 15 minutes is not enough, because we want the buttercream to be completely firmed up. So we're just allowing 2 hours time, but obviously 2 hours in the freezer is going to have condensation. So we just get done with the draping completely before even the condensation just starts to begin on the outside of the fondant. Now after this stage, this needs to be resting under AC directly, and if the outside is just going to get sticky, you just allow the condensation to pass, but then it is just going to dry up back, and then it is ready to just start assembling with the figurines and then finish the cake. So now we just come to the end of draping the square cake with fondant, and especially we've done it on top of Italian meringue buttercream. And then now I'll see you again on the lesson where I'm just going to assemble the 3D figurines on this and finish this cake.